How's it going, guys? It is Glake back once again from the Evidentries / the Phantom Pages, bringing the next video entry to my readings. This one is going to be for the Kybalion continuation. We're going to be doing the first actual chapter today. The last introductory video I did was just for the introduction of the book, which was its own separate section. So today we're going to finally be jumping into the nitty gritty, I suppose, with chapter 1. And then obviously after this video, we'll be doing the chapter 1 of the completion process as well. So we're going to just jump right into it today. Once again, if you haven't watched the introduction yet for the Kybalion, you want to go back, check that one out before you dive into this one. So here we go. Chapter 1, the Hermetic Philosophy. And here we go again with this quote. The lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding. The Kybalion. From old Egypt have come the fundamental esoteric and occult teachings which have so strongly influenced the philosophies of all races, nations, and peoples for several thousands of years. Egypt, the home of the pyramids and the Sphinx, was the birthplace of the hidden wisdom and mythic teachings. From her secret doctrine all nations have borrowed. India, Persia, Chaldea, I think it's pronounced Medea, China, Japan, Assyria, ancient Greece, and Rome, and other ancient countries partook liberally at the feast of knowledge, which the hierophants and masters of the land of Isis so freely provided for those who came prepared to partake of the great store of mystic and occult lore which the masterminds of that ancient land had gathered together. In ancient Egypt dwelt the great adepts and masters who have never been surpassed, and who seldom have been equaled. During the centuries that have taken their processional flight since the days of the great Hermes, in Egypt was located the great lodge of lodges of the mystics. At the door of her temples entered the neophytes, who afterward, as hierophytes, adepts, and masters, traveled to the four corners of the earth, carrying with them the precious knowledge which they were ready, anxious, and willing to pass on to those who were ready to receive the same. All students of the occult recognize the debt that they owe to these venerable masters of that ancient land. But among these great masters of ancient Egypt, there once dwelt one of whom masters hailed as the Master of Masters. This man, if man indeed he was, dwelt in Egypt in the earliest days. He was known as Hermes. Here we go with this last name again. I think it was Trismegistus. I'm probably butchering that again, but I'm gonna go with that for now. Trismegistus. I don't think that's how it was said before. Anyway, he was the father of the occult wisdom, the founder of astrology, the discoverer of alchemy. The details of his life story are lost to history, owing to the lapse of the years. Though several of the ancient countries disputed with each other in their claims to the honor of having furnished his birthplace, and this thousands of years ago, the date of his sojourn in Egypt, and that his last incarnation on this planet, oh wow, they really have the text going to the end here, is not now known, but it has been fixed at the early days of the oldest dynasties of Egypt, long before the days of Moses. The best authorities regard him as the contemporary of Abraham, and some of the Jewish traditions go as far as to claim that Abraham acquired a portion of his mystic knowledge from Hermes himself. After the years rolled by after his passing from his plane of life, from this plane of life, tradition recording that he lived 300 years in the flesh, the Egyptians defied Hermes and made him one of their gods. If that can't be deified Hermes and made him one of their gods under the name of Thoth. Interesting. Years after, the people of ancient Greece also made him one of their many gods, calling him Hermes, the god of wisdom. The Egyptians revered his memory for many centuries. Yes, tens of centuries, calling him the scribe of the gods and bestowing upon him distinctively his ancient title, Trismegistus, which means thrice, the thrice great, the great great, the greatest great, etc. In all these ancient lands, the name of Hermes was revered, the name synonymous with the fount of wisdom. Even to this day, we use the term hermetic in the sense of secret, sealed so that nothing can escape, etc. And this by reason of the fact that the followers of Hermes always observe the principle of secrecy in their teachings. They did not believe in casting pearls before swine, but rather held to the teaching milk for babes, meat for strong men, both of which maxims are familiar to readers of the Christian scriptures, but both of which have been used by the Egyptians for centuries before the Christian era. And this policy of careful dissemination of the truth has always characterized the Hermetics. Even unto the present day, the Hermetic teachings are to be found in all lands, among all religions, but never identified with any particular country, nor with any particular religious sect. This because, or I'm assuming that's supposed to be this is because of the warnings of the ancient teachers against allowing the secret doctrine to become crystallized into a creed. The wisdom of this caution is apparent to all students of history. The ancient occultism of India and Persia degenerated and was largely lost, owing to the fact that the teachers became priests, and so mixed theology with the philosophy, the result being that the occultism of India and Persia has been gradually lost amidst the mass of religious superstition, cults, creeds, and gods, quote unquote. So it was with ancient Greece and Rome. So it was with the Hermetic teachings of the Gnostics and early Christians, which were lost at the time of Constantine, whose iron hands smothered philosophy with the blanket of theology, losing to the Christian church that which was its very essence and spirit, and causing it to grope throughout several centuries before it found the way back to its ancient faith. The indications apparent to all careful observers in this 20th century being that the church is now struggling to get back to its ancient mystic teachings. But there are always a few faithful souls who kept alive the flame, tending it carefully and not allowing its light to become extinguished. And thanks to these staunch hearts and fearless minds, we have the truth still with us. But it is not found in books to any great extent. It has been passed along from master to student, from initiate to hierophant, I think that's how it's pronounced, from lip to ear. When it was written down at all, its meaning was veiled in terms of alchemy and astrology, so that only those possessing the key could read it aright. This was made necessary in order to avoid the persecutions of the theologians. Is that how you say it? Theologians, I guess, of the Middle Ages, who fought the secret doctrine with fire and sword, stake, gibbet, and cross. Even to this day, there will be found but few reliable books on the Hermetic philosophy, although there are countless references to it in many books written on the various phases of occultism. And yet, the Hermetic philosophy is the only master key which will open all doors of the occult teachings. In the early days, there was a compilation of certain basic Hermetic doctrines passed on from teacher to student, which was known as the Kybalion, the exact significance and meaning of the term having been lost for several centuries. This teaching, however, is known to many to whom it has descended from mouth to ear on and on throughout the centuries. Its precepts have never been written down or printed, so as far as we know, it was merely a collection of maxims, axioms, and precepts we know. I read the wrong thing. And precepts which were non-understandable to outsiders, but which were readily understood by students after the axioms, maxims, and precepts had been explained and exemplified by the Hermetic initiates to their neophytes. These teachings really constituted the basic principles of the art of the Hermetic alchemy, which, contrary to the general belief, dealt in the mastery of mental forces rather than material elements, the transmutation of one kind of mental vibrations into others, instead of the changing of one kind of metal into another. The legends of the philosopher's stone, which would turn base metal into gold, was an allegory relating to the Hermetic philosophy, readily understood by all students of the true Hermeticism. In this in this little book, of which is the first lesson, we invite when we invite our students to examine into the Hermetic teachings as set forth in the Kybalion, and as explained by ourselves, humble students of the teachings, who, while bearing the title of initiates, are still students at the feet of Hermes, the Master. We herein give you many of the maxims, axioms, and precepts of the Kybalion, accompanied by explanations and illustrations, which we deem likely to render the teachings more easily comprehended by the modern student, particularly as the original text is purposely veiled in obscure terms. The original maxims, axioms, and precepts of the Kybalion are printed herein in italics, the proper credit being given. Our own work is printed in the regular way, in the body of the work. We trust that the many students to whom we now offer this little work will derive as much benefit from the study of its pages as have the many who have gone on before, treading the same path to mastery throughout the centuries that have passed since the times of Hermes, the master of masters, the great, in the words of the Kybalion. Where fall the footsteps of the master, the ears of those ready for his teachings open wide. When the ears of the students are ready to hear, then cometh the lips to fill them with wisdom. So that according to the teachings, the passage of this book to those ready for the instruction will attract the attention of such as are prepared to receive the teaching, and likewise, when the pupil is ready to receive the truth, then will this little book come to him or her. Such is the law, the Hermetic principle of cause and effect. In its aspect, the law of attraction will bring lips and ear together, pupil and book in company. So mote it be. And that is the end of the first chapter of the Kybalion. It's a very interesting. At the end there, you'll probably be familiar with the law of attraction sort of theory if you've ever read The Secret, or in general if you've ever paid attention to pretty much anything, I guess, metaphysical or spiritual related. A lot of law of attraction is sort of it's sort of just this base foundational sort of principle that's pretty much everywhere in the spiritual, more metaphysical mind space, if you will. And yeah, you'll hear about that a lot, and it's kind of the basis for a lot of things and how reality sort of works, if you will. So yeah, we'll probably hear a lot more about that in this. But that was all very interesting. I'm sorry for the crazy bumpy reading today. I did say I was going to use my glasses from now on. That would help. Also, it's a little dark in here, but honestly, my glasses would help quite a bit. And yeah, I am kind of brain foggy right now, but yeah, I'm going to make sure that my glass is on for the next part, chapter 2, which should be up this week. The next episode the next upload should be for the completion process. We'll be doing chapter 1 of that one, and that should be, I feel like it should be up on Thursday. So Thursday, Friday will be recordings for 2 and 2 for both books. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. If you guys have anything to touch on, any comments you want to make about what was read today, let me know in the comments below. Would love to read them. And yeah, until next time, you guys take care, and I'll catch you guys in the next reading. Later.